here. Join us for the mastermind call with the Dream Makers Network for our 90-day goal setting challenge that we're having right now. So it's great to just be able to be a part and participate in these types of groups, these types of networks, and particularly these types of uh, challenges and initiatives, if you will, that are help you to kind of stretch yourself, test your comfort zone, put you in a space that uh, it may be uncomfortable in the short term, but when you just are able to spend some time focusing on the objective and the dream and the work that you will be doing and all of the things that even brought you to the decision to start setting goals, that in of itself is a blessing, and it's exciting, and it's great to be able to do it with other folks. And so I want to say welcome to those who you are on the call for the first time and connecting with us on social media for the first time, here with the Dream Makers Network. My name is Byron Deese, uh, from Sanford, Florida, and just thankful to have an opportunity to share with you guys and have you join the call this morning. And for all of you who've been around hanging with us over the past almost 10 years now, that we've hosted this call for the purpose of personal development. Yeah, I couldn't be more excited and thankful for your friendship and guidance and support, um, as we have just kind of worked on things together. We've had deep seated conversations and um, you know attacked challenges and issues together, and that's the exciting part. There's a factor of networking, there's a factor of togetherness, there's a factor of creating kind of the mastermind of surrounding yourself around people who share in your objectives, who share in your thought process, who share that there is a unique thing that we should be working on together, who are willing to do some of the things that, to be fair, most people aren't willing to do. And it's just a powerful thing to be able to do that and have those types of relationships. I remember growing up in the church and having you and seeing people who would join certain ministries of the church, and so and you knew you were in a in a group of folks who all cared about the same thing. Some of the other folks may not have cared so much about it, right? But I remember my uncle when I was a kid, he used to have a street ministry, and right, and so it was most of the folks would stand away from that. But you always had that nucleus of folks like they were game, they were down, they were ready to go out and do that collective work together, and that same mastermind concept and principle lives in anything that we choose to apply it to. Just being able to know that you have a deep-seated objective and passion for a certain topic, a certain area, a certain cause, certain business, a certain ministry, and you share that with folks. You're unafraid to share what it is that you're excited about. You're willing to have those conversations and, quote unquote, recruit folks to be a part of what it is that matters to you. And of that effort, of that recruiting, of that sharing of the message, you get a chance to associate with people who are also just as game, right? Who are just as willing to, uh, you know, work on objectives together. And that's what we've done here, over the past. It'll be 10 years here. It'll be 10 years that we've hosted this network, this for the purpose of personal development. Um, this coming Labor Day, and we're sprinting toward Labor Day, of 2022 and Labor Day of 2012. Myself, our brother Paz Morris, our good brother Dwayne Mitchell. We all kind of came together at my old house, and it's so interesting that even we talk about that. Yeah, at my old house in Baltimore County, we would sit on the deck flipping burgers and just begin the process of talking about where we were at the time and what our goals were and what we saw as that were barriers at that particular time, things that were getting in the way of what it is we felt that we were here to accomplish and the work that we were excited to do. And so we didn't know it, but we were creating a mastermind. We were creating a mastermind that where we were getting excited about the fact of growth and development and making that more important than all the barriers that were beginning to show up, right? And that consistency of wanting to better our circumstances and to live out the life that it is that we've had, these seeds that have been planted into us at some point in our time, whether it been as a child or as we grow in our relationship with our Creator and God continues to communicate to us, that we begin to take those ideas, take those messages, take those thoughts seriously and get to work, right? And so, and now we're here 10 years later, just about 10 years later, and the work continues. And the thankfulness that I have, and I every morning I try to just send my just moments of gratitude and thankfulness out in the mornings, and just say, you know, I'm thankful for those people that have come throughout the years who have invested, who have invested in my life, my time, my spirit, because those investments, you never know. You have a random conversation, and it seems random at the time until you meet that person who needs the information that was shared in that random conversation. And so we take these moments that we have with people and these things that we may say, why in the world are we going through this right now? Why is this even something? This is off of what I'm focused on right now. Why am I having this experience? And at the moment that it's happening, especially if it's off your radar, it seems unnecessary, right? Until you find yourself in a situation where someone needs that value, someone needs that information, someone needs what you have already experienced. And at that moment, you can become now a seed sower, an investor into someone else's life, and to be able to help address a factor, an issue, a concern, a matter, just a grief-stricken person, whatever the case may be. But we have that, and that is something that I personally just I'm thankful for those experiences, to have those tools ready to go when someone is in need. And I think that for me, and that's the value of that is different for different people. For me to be able to know that that I had something to give, something to add value to somebody else's situation is I'd say is part of the work that I'm here to do in this life. And so as we think about the purpose of personal development, what does it mean to develop and on a personal level? What does it mean to grow and become, and when I say more, meaning more in line with what it is that your purpose to do in this life, to have a better and clearer understanding of that. And the more aligned and the more confident you feel in your work, the more clear what's ahead of you becomes. You're not easily distracted when you are on assignment, when you have an objective to do, and somebody comes in and tries to throw something at you, and you're like, okay, that was great, thank you so much, but I'm on my way. I'm on my way to an objective. And it's just and it's just like that just saying that makes me think about a recent situation, where I turned down an opportunity because I was focused on the assignment, and then that opportunity said, hey, we will redesign what it is that we're asking you to do, because we want to be a part of what you're doing. We see that objective that you've laid out, and we think we can benefit from that too. So whatever way you want to make it work, and that is the power, that's the excitement, that's the power of being intentional within your purpose, and not just accepting whatever anybody lays on your lap. And so that's the purpose of these calls, to be able to have these moments of personal development, to share and to communicate and be honest about what it is that matters to us as individuals, and to be clear about the challenges that are going on, and especially if we feel like we've reached a moment of where we're stuck and can't move forward, and it's like I don't have any other thing to lend to this situation. I'm completely stuck. Somebody help, right? And that's part of it. And in this life, we go through those experiences where we don't have the experiences or the clarity to address and to answer immediate challenges. And so that's why it's important to have, to send those cares. I always send those cares to God. And the next thing you know, I got a team of people around me who's like, oh yeah, I know how to handle that. Thank you. Let's work on it. And that's the part, right? So, but again, thank you guys so much for joining us this morning, connecting with us. We see the folks who are joining us here on social media. Good morning to you, whatever time zone you are in. Thankful to have you on the line this morning, and we hope to have an opportunity to hear from you this morning. All right. Well, listen, I don't want to slow this thing down. We are in our 90-day goal setting challenge period. We are nearing the first, actually, I think we have already hit the first 30 days, and we are nearing the completion of this opportunity to complete the month of June on the first phase of the 90-day goal setting challenge, entering the month of July into our second phase. And I'm just excited to be able to hear from you guys, to hear what's happening. Give me the drama. We want to hear it all. We want to hear the issues. We want to hear the successes. We want to hear the things that you've learned. The one thing in particular, though, that I am really interested in hearing is if in this 90-day goal setting challenge that you have taken risks, that you're actually coming outside of your comfort zone to approach and pursue the objectives that you've set out, the things that truly matter to you. They've been on your to-do list forever. They've been in your mind, things that you said, I need to accomplish. I want to do it. I want to make this happen. But you haven't done it for whatever reason. And, just the current day-to-day things that matter, that are in front of your face, have become more important, if you will, than the thing that you really want. So let's take a second. I want to take a second. Let's open up the call to anyone who's willing to share the good, the bad update, if you will, the good, the bad update of your first 30 days on the 90-day goal setting challenge. And as you begin to share, I do want to have kind of a quick follow-up question as to what was the risk that you took? Something that was a little outside of your comfort zone. And if you haven't taken that risk, and but you know what it is, you haven't taken it yet, but you know what that, what that little thing is that and I say little because that's all it is. It's just the act of doing, but you know what it is and you haven't done it yet. This is the space to communicate that. I don't know about your other spaces and what other networks you're a part of and who else you're talking to about these types of topics, but this is the one, right? This is the why we built this network, to go at it, to address those fears, and to highlight the value of risk, the value of approaching something that you saw as a mountain that was just too big to climb, and being willing to do it. So let's take a second. We're going to take a second, open up the call now. And for our folks who are joining us on social media, please feel free to share. We see you, Bishop Miller, and Bishop Pelt. Everybody's on the line. We're so excited to see everybody who's on. We've been checking in also at the state convention back home in Florida. So excited about that. So let's take a second. Let's open up the call now. Anyone who is willing to share about their first 30 days of the 90-day goal setting challenge, we will open up the call now. And I want to quickly apologize if you hear some noise in the background. I am outside today. So it's a beautiful day here in Maryland. And I said, let me get out here while the weather is still great here on the deck. So let's take a second and we'll open up the call now. All right. Well, I'm going to take a second and kind of open it up here, unless I hear someone getting ready to say something. All right. I hear you, Brother Morris. Jump in. Go and jump in, man. Go ahead and jump in. I heard you, rough.
I was waiting. I was like, well, let me, I don't think the silence,
Hey, I'm not afraid of silence, brother. Silence is not my fear.
Oh man, look, I think so, but in this environment, it just doesn't really serve us. Let's be honest. It's not serving us. It's just silence. In this environment, here on the phone.
Yeah.
On the phone, a little silence is okay. But so your question about the 90-day challenge, I'll take a stab at it. One, I've been working on been trying to live. Well, the challenge that I have with the 90-day challenge, and probably with a lot of things that I've been realizing as I get introspective with this thing, the first 30 or 25 days or so in the challenge, is that I like to get to the 30 or 25 days. I like to get to the action part of what we got. But I realized that in order to achieve things that, the direction I'm trying to go and make it and hit the target, I really have to focus on the B part. Like something really getting to focusing on the goal. And for me, that's a challenge. Because you want to just start doing, and you want to start doing things. And I found in looking at my past record of stuff is that sometimes that works, but about maybe about 40% of the time it works, maybe even 30%. The other 70%, there's burnout or distraction, like you were talking about earlier, starts to kick in because you're so busy doing, and you lose the goal part of it, and then you get distracted, or I get distracted, and then I wind up applying that action to some things that don't fit in the early part. The actual target that I had set out to do, right? So I create all this energy, but it's not directed the way I needed to get directed.
Yeah.
So I pulled it back, and I've really been trying to work on, making sure that I'm focused. Just follow on the plan. Just stick to the plan. Stick to the plan. The plan is B. So become, work on it, think about it. Focus on the plan, and then get real strong on that target.
Yeah.
And then for the next 30, at least starting in July, then start doing, right? But it hasn't been that's not my typical way. My typical way is to hop right into it. All right, let's start doing stuff. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it gets great, phenomenal results. But I just wanted to do it this way, for this challenge. I really want to achieve these goals, right? So the thing that I found in laying there is that which for me has been what you say, not a challenge. You used another word for your fear. After fear, what do we have?
What'd you say?
You said make sure you're doing something that stretches yourself, right?
Yeah.
Or taking risks. That's what you said. Risk. So for me, I realize, and this might not be a risky part for a lot of people, but for me, it's uncomfortable. It's really asking for help. Man, that hurts me. I have such a challenge, sir, asking people for assistance. I don't know what it is. Well, I haven't gone that deep back into my past and about it and working on it and getting in line, it is like a real challenge. Like helping a lot of things. And I mean, I'm a helper. You know, I'll show up. I will show up, and we can get it done. You call me, I'm there.
Yeah.
If it's something that I'm there. I will be consistent. I will. And I hope that I have a reputation for that. And I hope that when people think about me, they think about somebody who is willing to assist them in projects and stuff that they have, or just in whatever. You know, I show up. But man, like really asking people for help, like saying, "Hey, man, I'm trying to do this. Can you help me with this?"
Yeah.
And the other thing that I started looking at is that asking people for help and it not necessarily being mutually beneficial, meaning that it's just genuine assistance.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I'm definitely not good at. I'm not good. And I've been realizing it it's like moving, you know. It's like moving, right? It's just moving to me is like the ultimate request. Like, hey man, I gotta move something.
Yeah.
You know, when the person shows up to move something, they're not getting anything from it. I mean, unless they're getting what you're giving. But you know, a lot of times it's just a move. So, you know, you show up and they leave, and that's like genuine help. Hey man, I'm just getting help.
Yeah.
And if I'm the one so asking somebody to help me with something that's not mutually beneficial, it's so risky for me. I mean, it actually, thinking about it right now, is even giving me like bubbles. Like I can feel that pulsating in my chest, in my stomach. You know, thinking about it. So I did. I made some requests to some of my colleagues and my contacts. Like, hey man, can you give me the number of this guy because I need to do this.
Yeah.
And man, when I tell you, it took me probably 4 days of going around just to make a simple phone call for people that I know would say, "Oh yeah, no problem." Oh man, going around in circles. It's just so I'm like, wow, blind spot, great, gotta work on that. Just for a better life, you know.
Yeah.
I've been limping around, you know, and I've been, you know, I just have to be able to do it. So that's a thing that I found. That's a small thing, and you know, I mean, it might sound like small to some other people, but for me, I mean, it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge. So we've been working through it, and I did make a couple phone calls to make some requests to people. And it's one of those funny stories. It's one of those things where, you know how you got to do something, you call somebody and they don't answer and you feel good, like, whew, that is man. So now I don't have to,
you don't have to do it.
I don't have to ask you to do what I mean. But you know, but I still needed assistance, so I had to turn around, double back, and then go at it again with even more kind of anxiety. So that kind of stuff. I wound up, you know, making a couple calls I had to, and I'm sure there'll be some other times throughout the challenge that I'll be doing this. But stuff is just a genuine ask. And this came from our early conversation of something that I know you got the whole, you know, the tabernacle on the line. You know, on social media, I know you got a lot of my clergy members watch these for guidance and all kinds of other stuff, right? So it's another thing. We talked about this in that conversation we had last month. Is that I also don't do it with God, which is crazy.
So that's that. Yeah.
I spend a lot of time meditating.
Yeah.
Meditating. But listen, what in the morning? Deep breath. Oh man, that's me. Deep breath in the morning. I'm there, eyes closed. Taking it in. Getting quiet. Listening to my breath. Calm. My mind is fresh. I mean, it feels good. But the thing that I don't do is I don't, you know, shoot that request out to God. Like, hey man, could you send me a little help here?
Yeah.
Or can you do that? I kind of just listen. I listen and then I just get to it. So I'm like, I'm not asking. It's not just people on the earth. I'm not asking anybody. So I'm like, who the hell do I think I am? I think it's too many cartoons to be kids. When I think about it, I think you're Superman. You're not, sir. You know, I'm talking to myself. don't, maybe it's a breakthrough. I think it is. I mean, it feels better to talk about it, and it's definitely a blind spot that I'm working on. So that's what I got. Boom.
Listen, brother, and I'm glad you opened it up, because you kind of hit all of the things that people go through, that we all go through, just period, right? Especially when we're working on something fresh, something new. I mean, you articulated what every human being goes through. So, but I want to talk it through, though, because especially when we're talking about the first phase of the 90-day goal setting challenge, which is the becoming aspect. And so the becoming aspect of what it is that you want, what the goal is. And there's a reason why you don't get straight to doing it, because you hadn't become it yet. And so you highlighted the fact that the whole process of asking, if you start doing something that you hadn't fully understood what it is that you're really trying to accomplish, your why isn't big enough to start working. It's like you're working, you're out there doing some stuff, but it'll take nothing to stop that activity that you're doing. You know what I'm saying? It'll take the smallest thing could push that activity off, because your why isn't big enough yet. And so but when you spend 30 days in a process of just really and I would say lead as you're becoming, that prayer and petition, that relationship and communication with God is a big part of that, because you are I know you've given, that's part of my conversation when I talk to God and say, you are the creator of me, so what you want me to do? You created me for a reason. What is that reason? What do you want me to do? I think about when I create things, and I'm creating something for a purpose. I need you to do boom, 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 and bap, right? And in the process of creating that thing, or that organization, or that business, or whatever it is, I'm creating that objective, thinking about, wow. I mean, I hadn't even finished creating it yet, right? But in the process of creating, I'm just thinking like, wow, boy, when this thing is done, it's going to be great, because it's going to do this, that, it's going to reach this. And, and so as the creator, I'm excited about what I'm building, what's coming to life. And you have to know that, God sees the same way in you and us when we were being created. Say, well, whew, wait till this boy Paz is completed. Like, wait till we get him out, And so it's important to have that relationship to be able to communicate, So it's one thing to be still and to flush out all of the other things that are on your mind, and that helps kind of create the nice the nice space to have a very clear and communicative relationship with God. If you've wiped out everything else, so you got the first part right, to be able to have that space of knowing how to meditate and get things out of the way. But then, because a lot of times there are some folks who don't know how to meditate and free their mind to be able to communicate and hear. And there's a lot of people who talk to God a lot and don't hear much back, because they hadn't gotten into the process of being able to clear out the worries and the doubts and all those reasons why some people go to God anyway, right? Because they're still thinking about the thing that is pressuring them and gotten in the way. But so you definitely have that factor. But I'll tell you, man, I'm at a stage in my life right now where I cannot even fathom no communication with God. My brain can't even concept it, because I know that the day-to-day things that I'm spending my time on, the way I view the world, the approach that I'm taking, it's all lined up with some initial seeds that I felt like have been here. These seeds that I associate that with these God-given seeds that have been sown at some point in my life, some of them even more recently, that I feel comfortable going into markets or going into unknown spaces because I know I have the tools to address it because it was given to me. I wouldn't even be going down these roads if I didn't feel like it was divinely inspired. But there's only way you can know if something is divinely inspired is if you having a communicative and a daily interaction with God. So the factor is, if that's the risk, then that's a great risk to have from my perspective, because imagine when you jump over that hurdle, that when you get over that risk factor, and just imagine for a second, to actually get up every day, go through your routine and rituals, but within that you're having this ongoing inspirations. Like it's like, imagine every time you talk to somebody, you're inspired. Every time you hear from you ask, and then the response is inspiration. Even if, and the thing is, we have to recognize that how do we feel when someone gives us information that we know is great, right? But we're fearful. We're saying somebody else should do that. You love the information that was just given, but you're afraid to do it yourself, kind of thing. And I'm not saying that's you, but because we're talking to a wider audience. But it's some people are afraid to do great things, and I want to say that and be honest. I know that for a fact, that there are some people who are like, that's not for me to do. That's for somebody else to do. Just afraid to do great things. And I want this call and this conversation today to be the very end of that we could actually, in our own mind and spirit, know today that we have that we're just as valuable to do great things than anybody who we see doing great things, right? At one point they may have felt the same way, so that's I only bring that up because once you start that communication with God on a daily basis, that active flow with your creator on a daily basis, there will be just ongoing inspirations of greatness, of things to do that could change everything. And then the human side of us will say, okay, whoa, all right, can I do this? And I don't have any experiences that can help me to accomplish what was just told to me, what was just given, and so that's the natural part of, when your best friend is a God. So, you're going to have those moments when, but because we're humans, but at the same time, though, it's just a good deal to have that kind of a relationship where you can hear and be inspired and feel the calling of your work, and know this is what you're here to do. Because I'll tell you right now, when you are divinely inspired to do something, you don't care who to call. You'll pick up the phone and then just you're asking, and then and even if they say no, you're gonna hang up the phone, and they're still gonna be a little bit inspired just by what you said, right? So just just the energy you gave them. They may call you back and be like, you know what, man, I know I said no, but I know I said no because I actually I gotta say something to you. And this is a call that I had earlier this week, and one of my clients called me, and actually when I saw he called me, I was thinking in my mind, I was like, oh man, we didn't do this, we didn't. So I was ready, kind of, did we finish the tax return or whatever? I was getting it all fresh in my brain. And this brother called me with no agenda. We found out by the end of the next hour after that conversation that he was divinely inspired to call me, and we danced around a bunch of different topics for a while, and then that brother, he went in. He all of a sudden he went in and he started talking about the work. He's like, man, here's the work, here's your gifts, right? And he just started articulating what he saw as my gifts. And he was just going on about, he was like, man, listen, the first time I met you, man, you know, I was getting ready to retreat. That brother said, I was getting ready to not talk to you anymore because what you were saying to me sounds so good that it had to be a scam. And I said, wow. Like, I mean, he was like, I was getting ready to not do business with you and remove you from my phone log, right? from my contacts, because I felt like the way you were sharing it was in a way that I felt like this is too much. The message and we're talking about money. It's not like I was, and I guess money is a topic where you can get a little nervous, but and then now this is, we've been a client now for over 5 years, but the fact that when you feel like what you're saying and what you're sharing is divinely inspired, I mean, you're willing to have that message with anybody and share that message with anybody who's willing to hear, and the ones who are not willing to hear it, right? And so the fact that after 5 years later, this brother comes back and tells me, he was like, I really was afraid to do business with you because it resonated with me so well, and because I am such a what did he say? He was like, I guess he said he's not as trusting of people. He's like, I don't, I have trust issues, and so when I heard what you were sharing, I knew it was something I should do. I was ready to retreat. It's like, if it wasn't for my wife, we wouldn't be doing business with you, brother. But I'm glad that I'm married a good woman who. So I say all that to say, listen, everything that comes out of my mouth is, I shouldn't say everything, but but especially when it's relative to the work. I mean, listen, if God hadn't given me the words, I'd just get quiet. There are some rooms I'm completely quiet in. I have nothing to say because I haven't felt led. I don't have. If I do open my mouth, I'll just be talking gibberish. There'll just be random stuff coming off, and people are like, what is he talking about? So I don't say nothing, until I feel inspired to speak, And so I guess that's why I'm going through those details, because I cannot fathom not feeling inspired to speak, especially as it relates to the work that I believe I'm here to do. Random conversations, stuff like that. But I mean the work, and so we have to kind of identify: do we feel like we have a work to do? Do we feel like we have a calling that we're out here actually doing? And if not, I'll tell you, I have a great recipe for that. And Paz, I know you know about this, but some of you guys who are maybe newer to the network, hey, listen, one of my favorite books on this particular topic is Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. It's a 30-day book. It's perfect for these 90-day goal setting challenges, especially as you're getting started, and just to figure out, like, what am I doing and why am I doing it, like that kind of thing, just to get started. We probably should have led with this. Now, it is a Christian book, so these are people who are either, to really be able to embrace it. It would be helpful if you are a Christian, but I'll be honest with you, and I think that the only demographic of folk who I think wouldn't embrace it at all is if you're blatantly atheist and you don't believe in a higher power at all. Then it might not add much value. but I'll say this book really stands the test on various faiths, because the process of connecting with whatever power you believe in, it is absolutely great. I mean, it's been just a value. There was a time when I used to read this book quarterly, and I kind of gotten away from that. But it's worth it. I actually have it right here with me right now, so that's probably it's interesting we're talking about that. But yeah, I would say, the Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren, absolutely perfect for this kind of conversation. Just to be able to address the whole factors of, one, why am I doing this? Is my why big enough? And is it in line with are my desires in line with the divine desires, the design, the with God's desires for man, for me, and it's just such a, I highly recommend it. Let me say that. I highly recommend that book. But I'll tell you, but the main piece when you go back to this first 30 days is to focus on the why of your goal. I have a goal. Great. Step one, yes, I have a goal. Now, if you don't have a goal, then that's another conversation. We can, we can spend some time on that. But for those who have goals, you just hadn't pursued it. Now, the next question is, well, why is that even the goal? What's the objective? Like, why is this even something that matters to you? Why is this something you want to accomplish? And there's so much value in unpacking the why of the things that, because a lot of times we start asking the why question, you're like, you know what? I don't think I really want to do this. And that's a good part. That's great. The last thing you want to be doing is spending the next 90 days working hard on something that you actually really don't want to do. And somebody else told you this is something you should be trying to accomplish in life. and it's really not lined up with what you want for yourself. And I listen, prior to this whole network and personal development, all that stuff, that I think that was my life, yo. Like I think I would spend everything I was spending my time on was stuff that I did not want to do. Somebody else told me I should do it, and I just was just trying to be the best I could be at doing it for them, right? And so I'm thankful for you brothers to even introduce this concept. Because now it's like I don't have time because I am so locked in on what it is that I'm here to focus on and to do. So yeah, man. So I think the first thing first is to make sure that the why is big enough. The why, when your why is just so big, you don't care who you talk to. You ask anybody, but hey, listen, I this is what I need, and yeah, I know it's a big ask, but listen, we about to make it happen, though, brother. We're about to make it happen, and people want to be a part of that. Especially people who know you. But even think about all these people who don't know you. Like, factor that in for a second. Like, when your why is so big and your energy is so strong that you can walk up to somebody who don't even know you, and even if they say no, they're gonna walk away like, wow, like that was, man. I don't know who that brother was, but whatever about him, boy, he was, he gave me something. He gave me just a little something that was off my, norm. And that's that factor of what we know we can do, the power that we have, that we know we can do this. We know we can inspire people regardless of how long of time we have with them. So yeah, dig into your why, man, so you can really, spread your chest out on it, right? And just be just as bold and confident about what it is that the things that you are doing. Because there are some folks who love to go inward and study, right? And just like, I have a goal, but I'm about to study this thing until the wheels fall off, right? And they never do. They just go inward and study and never do. They become like intellectuals of the topic, but they've never done it, right? And then you got the other side of the folks who are like, I don't have time to be studying this stuff and figuring this stuff. Let's go get to work, right? Let's go get on it. And, and then when somebody really starts challenging them, or you run into kind of that wall that's on the other side of the wall, is real growth and scale and progress. So you're doing that initial stuff that seems like, oh, it's cool. This is in my wheelhouse. I could do this. I could do this. And then you hit a wall that's like, okay, you're going to need to be, one, knowledgeable enough to break through, and two, have your why factor and needs to still want to keep going, right? Because if you don't have that big enough why, you'll hit that wall like, this ain't worth it anyway. Let's do something else, and it's over. That time, hopefully you learn something during that time, because it's over. You're not going back, or if you go back, it won't have the same impact. So, but yeah, man, I think I'm glad you shared that, because that's, again, most of us are, especially when we start pushing the dial on stuff that we really want to do, that's the wall, and we have to figure out which, are we willing and prepared to see it through, to do the work even after it becomes difficult, or are we just going to say, yeah, it's time to focus on something else, So Let me know what your thoughts on that if you have any questions on that.
Me? Oh, I just. Is that what else to the group? I mean, you laid a lot out. Man, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I do think that. Man, this is just a true statement. Man, hell, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
What I do have is you laid a lot out. You know, it's a long answer, but I did take a couple things out of what you said. One was that having. I'll start at the first part of the thing. Having the creating the environment for we talking about the conversations with God and getting a divine best friend, if you will. It's like it's so obvious, and that's the beauty of the conversations and stuff. It's so obvious, but when you unless you bounce it off of somebody else, or let somebody know what you're thinking, it really becomes convoluted. So I'm like, the way you frame the answer about conversations with God, having divine inspiration, being there. I mean, it's so obvious. And then it's like in any other relationship, communication. You have to be able to communicate, right? You just have to, talk about any relationship. So, in my thoughts about it, as you were saying, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty obvious. You just got to do it. And I was like, so as you were talking, I'm like, well why? Why wouldn't you be, asking and that kind of thing? And I'm like, in my experience with God and the divine, it's like you're expecting. It's not as close a relationship as it should be. Like the way you described it, you were like, I've talked to God. Me and God kind of go out here and go to work, right? As a team, but I don't know why. And I use the why question a lot when I'm thinking about myself. Like, why do you do this? What makes you do that? Because I want to understand and be able to find the triggers and not fall back into the traps again in the pattern. But I'm like, what are you expecting? Like, what you think or something? You just gonna be laying drunk in the woods and then wake up past and build an ark. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I guess it happens to certain people, but you're not really trying to build an ark, sir. You're trying to move your family. You're trying to get some houses. You're not. Then you're gonna have to talk. And I'm like, so what are you expecting in that quiet time? This was so obvious, but I just like I said, I stand by what I've been doing. Like I've just been quiet. But the positive part about it is you're right. A lot of people, do a lot of talking, but don't do a lot of listening. And then you got people who, I guess, on my side of things, doing a lot of listening, but not doing a lot of asking, and aren't in healthy conversation and healthy communication with divine. And that's so important. It's so important. Just, like you said. When you were like, I just talked to my creator, man. I'm like, God, why wouldn't you just, when you hear somebody say, like, why wouldn't you just be talking to the creator of all things if you could? You just sitting here looking dumb, with your breath in line. You know what I'm saying? Expected. And then maybe that's that arrogance, expecting that these words are just gonna come down to you, that way. So that was very powerful. I definitely took that from the first half of the answer.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm going to utilize in moving forward, and then always going back to the why is supremely, and that was in the description of how we stop chasing goals and targets is spot on. You get busy and your why is not strong enough, and so you wind up just a bigger thing. Sometimes you get through the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 challenges. The challenge number 7 is bigger than your why, and so it makes you retreat. So you just gotta have it so big that you don't until you achieve the target. So it's not like I know we on the phone with people who are on the line with people who are achievers. So we've achieved some things. We're talking about getting over that big hump, and doing the bigger thing that you really want to do. So the expectation is that bigger challenges should occur because you're trying to do bigger things, So And so, you know, you get to the small stuff and the way you said it. You know, you get started and, you know, you're in motion, and then, you know, so you get one, two, three things, and a little bit of stuff, you know, and then boom, hit a brick wall, and your why is just not big enough. Or you realize that it wasn't a good goal. Either way, you don't achieve that goal, you know, and then you reach that. And sometimes the learning experiences come around with it. I take that back. Every time that happens, there should be learning experiences that come with it. Even if what you learn, I guess, should be that you need to get your why stronger. But, you know, every time you run into a wall, there should be some learning to get you there. So, yeah, it was good. But the first part was what I really took for, mainly because the first part is what I've been working on for the last 30 days. So,
yeah,
you know, I needed that last bit of mention. Well, not 30 days. I guess it's been 20, whatever. So, coming into July gives me a good week to work on it, practice on it. So, it's been super helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
I was reading something. I'm trying to figure out what I was reading yesterday. I was reading something yesterday, and it was really on this topic, but it was like, it was talking about God's intention for man. I think that's what it was. And it was like, you know, God's intention for man. And it was like, you know, God's intention for man is the relationship that he had with Jesus. But at the time of creating man, he also gave man free will. You know, so it's like, it's this line between, yes, you know, I don't want it to be completely arbitrary, because it's like, I have an intention. I'm going to create something, but I want them to want to have this worship and loving relationship with me. I want them to want it. I'm going to create a being and give them free will where they can choose what they should and will do. But at the end of the day, for them to have the most valuable experience in this life, it's going to be about choosing to have this relationship with me. And so that doesn't seem difficult until you have like a society who also wants man to worship them too, you know. So it's like there's so many things out here begging for us to worship it, you know, whether it be, you know, society or countries and, you know, food or whatever the thing is, just begging for our attention and for our love and for all of that. And if you never got the information, right, that's kind of the whole piece of, like, you know, the purpose of the church is to get the information and share the information with the people, so people will actually know that there was an initial intention, you know. And we have these thoughts back and forth. And so what should we do? Oh man, should we do this? Should we do that? But we're never asking, you know, and depending on who you believe, like even free will gives you the ability to say, I don't believe there was ever a God, right? So that's what free will allows. So yeah, it definitely can be complicated. You know, but I think at the end of the day, once you feel confident though, and just kind of your spiritual life, you know, whatever that life is, but just the confidence in, you know, I remember, you know, it's like when I showed up at Tuskegee, you know, I was, you know, small town boy from the Pentecostal church showed up in Tuskegee, and a bunch of different people and different ways of life and people who look just like me. It's one thing that it was the one cultural, I would say, shock is when I got to Tuskegee, was that I was surrounded by people who looked like me, but believed very different things. You know, it was just a diversity of beliefs. You know, people had believed in views and experiences that was just as quote unquote dogmatic as my views, right? But they believed it in their world, in their sect or whatever. And it helped me to kind of expand my understanding. But even with that, you know, it was just kind of like a broadening of your horizon. Your foundation is your foundation. And so you know, so when we go back, I remember when we were reading the book Becoming, I think that by Michelle Obama, it was a great book for this kind of a topic, you know, because whatever your foundation is your foundation, you know. And so then you come into your 40s and you look back and you say, okay, yes, that was my foundation. Some people love their foundation and it still stands as the torch barrier of the next 40 years, if you will. And then others try to spend most of their life running from their foundation in search of whatever that's not their foundation, right? And it's like, it's we have to at least be able to articulate what our foundation is, like what it is that the first 20 years of our life that was given to us, that we saw every day, that became our existence, our daily understanding, our behaviors, that is now just deeply set it into our subconscious, because there's nothing we can do about it at that point. It's here, right? And then understand how we feel about that, and then what role our foundation plays in the next 40 years, And so that's a big part of the becoming, that first month. That's a big part of it, of just really being able to unpack who we are and have a certain, and at least, and I was about to say and feel good about it, but you feel good about the fact that you know who you are. Even if you hate those first 20 years, even those first 20 years were the most traumatic experiences of your life, and on the flip side of that, you could have just loved every second of your first 20 years, but then you look at your current reality and it doesn't look anything like it. And you shouldn't feel bad about your current life just because you had, your parents or whoever raised you gave you certain experiences that aren't reflective of your current life, and so we just have to know it is. That's what it is. And then now we have a ground that we can move forward on, because unfortunately, going back to this whole goal setting objective, if you have a goal that you want to accomplish and it matters a lot to you and you want to see it happen in the whole nine, and you've never really, you still have some uneasiness about your foundation. And when I say uneasiness, meaning, just some, some boxes that just hadn't been unpacked. We're going through this whole process now of moving and pulling boxes out and all this stuff. Like, oh, wow, I ain't looked at that in a long time. Okay, all right, let's put this back up, right? Where's the tape at, right? Or let's just throw it away, right? And I think that process is very important, and I've been, and so over the past couple of days, I've just been going through the process of like, okay, this box, we got all these boxes and we got all this stuff. This is coming with me to Florida. This is coming with me because it's of value to me right now. And I think it will be of value to me in the future. This box, do I keep it? Do I throw it away? You know what? I'm going to give this box to somebody else. I'm going to give it to somebody because it was good to me. I don't particularly need it where I'm going, but it was good to me, and I think it would be good to somebody else. I'm going to give this box to somebody else. This box is going in the trash. All of everything in here is going. As soon as I hang up this call, we are going, Paz, we're going to the dump. We're going back to the big dump and dumping a bunch of stuff that's going to the trash, because either one, it could have been the case that it wasn't good to me then, and it's definitely not going to be good to me going forward. But again, that's that process of unpacking the first 20 years of your life. And I want to focus on the first 20 because I think Michelle Obama did a great thing by writing the book the way she wrote it and highlighted, like, this is who I am. You guys know Barack's wife, right? But this first 20 years game, that's me. That's who I am. And the good, the bad, whatever you think, this is it, right? And it's so good to just spend that time focusing on the first 20 years, unpacking it, understanding. I tell you, man, a lot of times I talk to people. I was home back in Florida last week, and I saw one of my boys I hadn't seen in so long, and he brought up some stuff. I forgot about it. Like, I completely, it's some stuff you just like, you just sweep it under the rug because it was like, oh, you know what? I probably, and that's probably the same thing, right? At some point in my life, I decided I need to put that in the trash, and I'm not gonna ever think about it again. And then somebody show up, man, we did this. I was like, you sure it was me, brother? Like, yeah, it was you, man, because we were. So, but again, I think it's just it's a worthwhile process, especially when you're doing 90-day goal setting challenges like this, just to, the realization of your foundation is just a powerful thing to know, and to be into. It's one thing if you love it. I think I'm probably trying to graduate to a point where I can say, it's like, yeah, whatever that first 20 years was, even, you've gone through the process of recognizing it, and you can articulate the conversation about who you are from your foundation perspective, and then you keep moving. You take the good, you understand the bad, and you keep rocking, right? So yeah, I don't even know how we got on that topic, but it's just something that I think is worthwhile in that becoming process, especially when you're getting ready to do something that you believe is great. It's worth doing that initial work just to, for yourself. Nobody else even has to know about this. This is just between you and God. So, all right, that's that. Anybody else? Let's open up the call. I know we're after 8:00. Me and Paz just kind of wrote this thing out for an hour. But let's open up the call. Anybody else have any questions or comments? The first question really was about your first 30 days and where are you in this goal setting process? Have you taken any risks? Have you been successful? Has the first 30 days been great? And how'd you get there? If it's been horrible, if you hadn't done anything, you're just waiting for this next call. Like, where are you? Let's open up the call now. Does anybody have any questions or comments and share about their first 30 days of the 90-day goal setting challenge? We will open up the call now.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Jaleesa.
How are you?
Man.
I know.
A lot of this, what you talked about is literally just hitting home for me. God was recently, shook me up about my partnership with him. Like, I've been partnering with other people. I've been connecting with other people, but God is like, connect with me. Partner with me. Do your business with me. Build your life with me. Because all of these other people, they can help you, but I created you. So why not, like you said, why not come to me as a creator to become the person that I have for you to be? You're becoming who other people have wanted you to be, but become who I called and created you to be. He's challenged me and pushed me so much within this past month. I literally I got put in this situation where I had to trust him completely with finances, with my kids, with my entire life. And it's been hard, but it's been so peaceful because I know he got me. And regardless of the situation, regardless of what's going on in my life, I can have peace because I know that everything is going to be taken care of. Since we last spoke, I've been in an abusive marriage, and I've been going back and forth with God, like, God, I need to do this before I get out. I need to do this. I need to do that. Like, I need to be prepared. But God was like, trust me. Trust me. And I got a random check for $1,500 in the mail. Like, he literally, is pushing me to trust him. I went to get a protective order against my husband for a situation that happened with him and my son, my 2-year-old son. And the court decided that I will only get $600 a month. I've been a stay-at-home mom for the past 3 years. And I haven't been making my own income. So when the court decided that, he will only have to pay me $600 a month, and I had all 3 of the kids, I was angry with God. Because it was like, how can you say that you love me? How can you say that you care for me and allow these things to happen? But it goes back to what you said. We have free will.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that God wanted me to go through this situation. It wasn't that God wanted me and my son to be abused. It was that my husband had free will. He has free will to do what he pleases. And yes, I have to be the receiver. I had to be the receiver of that. But at the end of the day, after that situation happened, I got that check for $1,500 in the mail, and I'm like, okay, God. Okay, God. Okay, God, I trust you. Okay, God, I know you got me. I know you have my kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to share custody with him. And it's like, every time I send him over there,
yeah,
I just pray over them. I cover them. I pray with them. And I know that God's got them. And I know that even later on down the line that He's shown me things to do to continue to support them as we go through this transition. My kids are 2, 1, and 2 months old. My kids are babies. And I didn't want to go through this with them being so young. But God has me, and I know He does. He's been bringing people to me, showing me things, opening doors for me that I never would have thought would have been open at this point in my life. So this call this morning, I literally woke up just in time for it. So I know it was a reason for me to be here this morning to hear everything that you guys have been talking about. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, I tell you, yeah, and you and I have had the conversation before about the situation, and I tell you, the thing is, we got this one life. We have no clue what happens when we wake up. We wake up and we have no clue what that experience will be like that day. All we know is we have responsibilities, we have objectives that we have embraced, and then we don't know what curveballs, we don't know what barriers, we don't know what types of evil may show up and try to affect us individually or our families or the people who we care about. But going back to that point that you highlighted, especially when you talk about this, this relationship that we have with God, is that, we're people walking around with free will can make the decisions to do whatever it is we want to do. And most people are focused on just how I'm gonna do what I want to do, and individualism, right? But it is a blessing for the people who have at some point either read the scripture or somebody shared the message that we can actually have a relationship with our Creator on a daily basis, and we can understand what trusting actually means. We can understand what faith means, and to have a faith from the standpoint of, basically what we're talking about right now in this whole conversation around goals and goal setting is basically you saying, I'm going to have faith that I can come up with a lifestyle. I can come up with a reality that's in my mind that and do what's necessary to make that reality work. And here's the part that, going back to this whole piece about having this daily conversation and communication and throughout the day, with your Creator, is that, before I get started running my wheels and getting busy and doing all these things, what is it that you want me to do? And even in that process of learning what it is you believe your purpose is and what you're here to do on a day-to-day basis, you're going to have these experiences of people who come into your life to distract you, to throw you off, to be evil toward you, to have these circumstances that's going to throw you off your game, make you not think about what it is your true purpose work is. going to make you focus on all the things that are opposite of delighting yourself in the relationship with your creator. And, you know, I keep going back. I was telling my daughter the other day about Psalms 37:4. You know, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. And I let that scripture just play over and over and over again in my mind. So it's like, what does it mean to delight myself in the Lord? And what does it mean to delight myself in my relationship and with my creator? What does that mean to delight? Like just being able to unpack every word and become just, you know, really try to understand how that relationship should be. And, you know, and so, and I will say where I am right now, I try to, like, first of all, first thing in the morning is just try to create some level of, for lack of a better word, spiritual intimacy, you know, where I can just be honest and clear about my love of the relationship, for being just thankful for what is my current existence. You know, it's one thing for us to get so focused on what we want and the bigger goals and the bigger objectives, you know, and those things that you can see in your mind, but they're not real yet. But then there's a whole another factor around just being immensely thankful for the things that bring you joy today, you know, and even in the middle of craziness, among all of that, you know, I was like, even yesterday, you know, I was at a family funeral yesterday, and you think about people, you know, who are just completely grieving that someone has now died, and someone who you love, you care about, and it's like you go into those into a funeral with a certain type of sadness, if you will. But the truth is, are we sad about everybody when they die? You know, because the truth is, you're sad about people who you love and you care about, because you won't have that, you know, in-person conversation with them every day again, you know. And those are but the only reason why you're sad about it is because you love them, you know. So should we be focused more so on the sadness, or focus on the fact that we had this love relationship for all these years with someone who just made us feel a certain way, someone who made us, you know, were a big part of our foundation factor, you know, who we identify as our foundation, or someone who played a big role in our growth, you know. And so I highlight that to just to look at the fact that there is a certain level of current thankfulness that and gratitude that plays a big role in who we are becoming, you know. So it's like, and the bigger piece to this is, the more we focus on the gratitude, the thankfulness, the value of the things that truly matter to you today, and because at some point leading up to today, these were things that you were able to accomplish, or things that helped you to get to where you currently are, the more time you focus on that, on the gratitude and the thankfulness and that communication, and just going back and forth with just like that spiritual intimacy, the less time you have to think about the, you know, the factors that are getting in your way. And, you know, the evil wants energy, you know. So evil wants you to, let's go down this dark hole together. You know, I'm gonna sue you, and now you sue me, and now we're gonna go back and we're gonna do this for the next several years, right? And so, and my kids gonna hate you, and they're gonna hate you, and it's just gonna become this big cloud of you know, negative interactions. And that's one way to do it. You know, going back to the free will aspect, you can choose to go down that road, or you can choose to, like you said, just, you know, be thankful for the relationship and and all that God has given you, that you are proud of, that you're excited about, that means something to you right now, and say, God, just help me to show me the work that you want me to do. Send me there. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. I know it seems like I'm in in a tizzy, and there's all kind of craziness going on, but I still got work to do. So what's my work? Show me help me to see it clearly. Give me clarity, give me wisdom, give me excitement, and let my children see me being excited about this work that you've assigned me to do. And, let them grow up watching this valuable person, sow seeds and give back, because here's the truth and the fact of all of this. None of us have a clue as to how long we're here on this earth. We have no clue, so, and me and Paz had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. I just want to be the guy. I don't want to be the guy with regrets. I want to commit myself to what it is I believe my purpose is every day. And as if today is the last day, and just be committed to that. That encompasses my thoughts and all the stuff. And when those small stuff try to sneak in, because the enemy tries to find little ways to sneak in your mind and try to get you off track. Evil people show up in your world to definitely try to get you off track. The last thing the enemy wants is for you to be successful at being a valuable person in this life, right? That's the last thing and so to be someone who's actually fulfilling their purpose on a day-to-day basis, if you can wake up every day and it's like, I'm actually doing the work and that I believe I'm here to do every day. If you believe, if you walk around every day knowing that you're actually doing that work, that purpose work that only you are uniquely to do, nobody else can do what you do. Nobody else has your other experiences. They don't have your skill set. They don't have that right combination of factors that you bring to the table. And if you're doing that work every day, that's the last thing the enemy wants to see happen in this world. So, but at the same time, when you're so encompassed in doing that work, there's not a lot of time for you to even think about the enemy. Even when the enemy try to jump right into your face, and you can just call it out like, God, that's for you. I don't got time for that. That's for you. That's not even for me to spend extra time on. Those things that are beyond my comprehension, you deal with it. And that's the relationship you just kind of have to have, because if you don't have that relationship, then you think you got to deal with these, crazies and these demonic factors that get involved and all that stuff. I'm like, I don't have time for that. I am so focused on what it is you told me to do in this life. Get that, you deal with it, right? So the fact is, we're going to have, and there'll be more situations, where the enemy will try to get in your way, will try to affect your children and your other people and people who you love. That's the fact. There will be attempts, if you will, to disrupt you and your pursuit toward fulfilling your purpose in this life. But thank God for the relationship that you're able to say, you deal with it. Let me get back to work. And let that be a part of your daily trusting of how the flow should go, and let it not hinder your ability to dream, because that's what happens a lot of times, is that when people start going through stuff and they spend so much time focusing on trying to fix how do I fix this? How do I fix that? Your capacity to dream, your capacity to go beyond your current reality begins to diminish, begins to dwindle. And that's the reason why we have this call. We cannot allow adults, because adults are the ones who talk themselves out of dreaming. We're the ones, right? We got so much going on. We got to pay bills. We got these relationships we're trying to figure out. We got these crazy people at work, like all these things that's like getting in the way of you still committing to the dream and even being willing to, do more and to think outside of your current reality and to have a bigger objective for the things and the people who matter to you. That's exactly why we have this call, just to make sure that all you grown folks who are busy with a bunch of stuff will and have a bunch of life issues happening, still remember that you have the faculty to dream. You have the faculty to aspire and to actually do the work. And so we have this call so everybody's talking about the things that we're all going through, but we're still focusing on progress. We're still focusing on pursuing the objective in our own little experiences in unique ways. But those stories help to add value to your journey after you hang up the phone, after this call is over, and you go back into your life and you're like, okay, I did hear Paz say, this is what he was doing. And, and then you get back on track. At least you have these, these now, this conversation is now part of your experiences. And that's the part, that's the part about our tools, the tools that we have. A big part is your experiences. And even though you may not have done it, you heard somebody talk about it, or you read a book, or you got access to information that was off of your radar, but then after you read it, or if you heard it, you saw it, it now became a part of an experience that can be helpful as you go down this road of being purpose driven and going after the things that you believe you are here to do. And so, but it definitely begins with understanding and having this spiritual intimacy, having that being a part of your day-to-day life and objective, and just finding, as we, in a couple a 90-day challenges ago, the whole concept of it was, the focus of the 90-day challenge was to remove and replace. And when we think about removing and replacing, we look at currently, we know what our goal is, we know what our desires are, and what it is that we want to have as a fixture in our life, and the type of work that we want to spend time doing on a day-to-day basis. And if it's not a current reality, if it's not part of your current life, but you truly desire it, you want it, you see yourself in that world, then the question is, what are you going to remove that what can't come with you? And that's the beautiful part about dreaming, is like, and just creating, when you think about dreaming and just having like a movie in your mind, and so what's there in that reality that's not that I don't currently have, and what about my current reality that's not there, right? And it's not there for a reason, because you see yourself in a space that's much more aligned with who you feel that your purpose, and the work that you're here to do. So we have to recognize what are we removing first. And look, oh, I love it. This is the one thing, like, what's not coming, what a part of your current life will not be there because it does not add value to who you are becoming. And we have to do that self-inventory and talk to God about it. Again, we have to, I keep using this word spiritual intimacy, but basically that just means, having this ongoing communication with our Creator, and just, hey, this is what I've been thinking about. Let me know what you think. And people hear from God in different ways, but at the end of the day, when it's a divinely inspired idea, because it wasn't in your brain before, and you've had this conversation, and all of a sudden you seeing these things, and ideas pop up in your mind that was, whoa, that's off the radar. Where'd that come from? Just all of these, just being in touch with having a spiritual relationship. And for some people, that's unheard of. They've never had it, right? So it's like, well, how do I do that, right? But it is worth pursuing. I'll say that it is definitely worth pursuing, having a spiritual relationship with your Creator, and opening the books and reading and having just that time where nothing else is on your mind other than, it's just like when you're loving somebody and you're dating somebody, or you're married, and you're just like, all I think about is you, kind of thing. I mean, hopefully we've all had that experience, at some point in time. But intimacy is a beautiful thing, and so that same concept from a spiritual perspective exists and is available to us. We just have to just make the decision to what do we want our reality to look like? Like, what kind of life do we want? What we currently have, that can be the deal for the rest of your life if you willing to maintain the life that you have. But if you see something else, don't be afraid to pursue it, especially if you already have this. If you're willing to have this relationship with like me and Paz were just talking about, a best friend, a best friend that's a God, that's a beautiful thing, and it helps you feel confident in everywhere you go. There's no room that you won't feel confident in, because you know who your best friend is. You know who you got with you. So yeah, sister. I mean, there's a lot that the enemy wants to throw, and the enemy is willing to throw at you. It's like, oh, you love them children, you love them babies. Check this out. All of that. But when you start saying that, I say, God, I'm gonna give that one to you because I got to get back to work. So you take care of that. Let me know if you need me to do something, but I'm giving that to you, and you release your mind of that and just do what it is that you're here to do. Stay focused, stay committed. Don't let the passion dwindle, because that's exactly what the enemy wants. Is where your passion, your desires, and your dreams just dwindle, and you just become, in a box, and not affecting anybody, and not affecting the lives positively, to anybody. And so you're gonna be all good, because I can hear just in your story the value of the relationship. And here's the biggest thing: whenever I'm really going through something crazy, I always say to myself, this is going to make for a good story. It's going to be a blessing to somebody else, boy, because I'm going through all the ringers right now. So when I start talking about the drama of my situation, especially if it's in line with somebody else's current reality, so check this out. This is what I did. I went through it, and there is, this is not forever, right? So yeah, man. So I'm glad you shared that, because again, the enemy wants us to stop all of the. Listen, I'm surprised my phone hadn't gone off or something like that, because hey, what are y'all talking about? Figure out a way to shut down the telecommunication of this call right now, because they're trying to come up with ways to get around my evil works. And so we are. That's why we've been doing this for almost 10 years, and we're gonna keep rocking as long as they allow us to do it. So anybody else have any questions, comments, or want to share before we keep diving in? We're at 8:35. Paz, you on it, man. Like, this is you made it work, brother. We're at 8:35, and we hadn't even gotten to the meat of this thing yet.
I knew we could do it. I said, just keep on working.
Anybody else? We'll open up the call now. All right. So check this out. So we actually ended up diving into. I actually pulled out the book, The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. Listen, I highly recommend that you get this book if you haven't ever read it. And listen, if you have read it, but it's been 10 years or 20 years or whatever, I don't know how old this book is. Time to dust it off again, because we're different from the last time you read that book. But especially when we're talking about goals and pursuing. It's a nice structure. It's a 30-day book, a chapter a day. It's perfect. But I wanted to highlight, there's a couple things in this book, and in the chapter that's focused on you were shaped for serving God. And so I love this I guess acronym, if you will, that he has of SHAPE. And he used the word SHAPE as an acronym for S representing your spiritual gifts, H representing your heart, A representing your abilities, P representing your personality, and E representing your experiences. And I know we've talked a little bit about some of those different things, but it's always helpful to to have kind of like a format that's stuck in your brain, and you can always use it when you get a little low and you're like, oh man, I can't do this. You go back and you think about your shape. What are you shaped to do? And the shape helps to remind you that you have everything you need to go to work. You have everything you need to address any challenge. You have everything you need to go into the unknown. You have everything that you need to increase what you've already built. When you outline your shape and make it personal and be able to highlight, and it's always good to like when that brother, I tell you, my client called me this week and he started going in and it's like, this is what I see your gift is. And I mean, listen, that was nothing but God telling that brother to call me that day, because again, I was sitting there thinking about this and got 1,000 things going on, and I'm like, okay, all right, what about this? And I was actually getting ready for two big things. So this was probably on Wednesday when he called me. Thursday, I had this. So some of you know, our accounting firm was purchased by a larger company based out of Northern Virginia, and so everybody's trying to figure out where do they fit into all of this and what's next, and the uncertainty around acquisitions and all of that. And and so we were getting ready for this big all firm meeting, and everybody comes together in Northern Virginia on Thursday. So I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, okay, and I got this big new division that I'm building out within the firm, and I'm gonna make that presentation and all that kind of thing. So that's on my mind. And then Friday I had a meeting with a new client, which, if everything went well, would be my largest client, right? So I'm like, okay, that's on my mind, right? So I got all these different things, and we're packing up the house, getting ready to move to Florida. So all these different things are going on. And that brother calls me, and he just spoke. He just was going in. It was interesting to see how the conversation built up to what he didn't realize he was the purpose of the call, but he was able to kind of highlight from his view, from his perspective, what he saw as what my shape is. What he saw as my spiritual gifts, my heart, my abilities, my personality, and my experience. It is good to have people in your life who you can communicate these types of things with. It's worth you sharing with someone else what you believe their shape is and what you see as their attributes, and especially in the things that will, and it's good to outline it that way, because especially if you know someone, if you have some type of an engagement with them where you've got a chance to know them in some capacity, it could be family, friends, co-workers, clients, whatever. But if you've had ongoing communication with them and experiences with them, they can give you their assessment. It's good for you to do that for other people as well, especially if these people are, if they trust you, if they have a relationship with you in some capacity. And it doesn't always have to be family or personal relationships. It can be business related. But reason why I'm saying that you should do this is you should do this for someone, and then you ask God, right, to help bring people into your life who can speak into your life. Because now there's some people who will say some stuff just to hurt your feelings on purpose, right? So and those folks will show up, right, and they'll do it on purpose. But it's good to have accountability groups and networks, people who, again, similar to this group, where you can share with each other and invest into each other's lives on purpose. It's good to say, hey, let me call Pat, let me call Dana, let me call Tyson, let me call Deese, just to have a one-on-one, if you will, because it's helpful as we're going through these processes of trying to grow and develop and become, more discerning and picking up, becoming more wise as we go through these processes, and more emotionally comfortable as well. Because, I was watching something the other day, and and it was, you could tell the fire was getting hot, and some folks emotionally couldn't handle, the words that were coming out. Some people just couldn't, the facial expressions were changing, and the next thing when they responded, you could hear that heat in their voice, and so we want to become emotionally confident, to be able to manage ourselves, and even regardless of what the temperature is, because a lot of times people just do stuff just to get you out of your your current, out of your norm, if you will. They want you to get ugly, right? And emotional confidence is a big part. And when you start thinking about your shape, your spiritual gifts, those things that you do well, you do it well. And there's some people, man. I know a lot of folks like this who they do stuff that are just great, but because they're just their personality is so humble that they don't even think about. They won't even receive it's hard for them to receive compliments, because they're so, just their spirit is just like, I'm not looking for attention here. This is just who I am, kind of thing. But it's good for people like that, for you to share with people like that. Say, one thing I've noticed about you is that you are this. Whatever you see, it's good to share that, and it's helpful. It's good for them, but it's also good for you, to be to sow a seed. And that's basically what you're doing, and so to be able to tell somebody what you see as their heart. They're not asking, hey, tell me what you think about me. No, this is just you being intentional, intentionally sharing with someone, saying, this is what I've seen, especially if you feel, if, something that you've always thought about, but you've never verbalized it, and I'm asking you to do that, because as you do it, as you give, then there's just a flow. It's not about you expecting something in return. It's about the flow of giving and receiving. As you give, receiving comes. So it's not, I gave you something, you need to give it back. No, that's not it. You give, you sow, and it's the laws of the universe. It comes back to you, right? And so, so put yourself in a position to do that. Is that Brother Morris? Yeah, brother. I don't know what you're doing over there, man. What you got going on? Listen, we can hear people grunting in the background, man. What's going on?
And I was with you. You said the law, and I was actually breathing out compensation. That's what it is. The law you talk about, like compensation, and then the other one is reciprocation. So when you do something, it comes back. I was with you, but I just happened to hit mute.
Like, yeah, amen, corner in the background. Like, hey, brother said something.
I'm definitely a strong deacon.
Strong deacon. Oh man. So all right. All right. We almost done. I just want to get these last 2 points out. So when we're going back to the shape, your spiritual gifts, your heart, your abilities, your personality, and your experiences. These are the things that we should definitely not only tap into within ourselves and really look at that and ask those questions of yourself. One, what do you see as your gifts? What do you see as your heart and your abilities, your personality, and your experiences? And that's the other thing that Jalissa, that we were talking about earlier, is that the one thing that I had never thought about it in this way, but even before I ever read this book, there was this whole concept of competition. Where people, well, I'm not going to do this because it's so competitive and this thing. And I'm one of those guys who believes that there's no such thing as competition. There are people who are doing maybe in the same industry as you, or people who are doing certain things similar, but what you bring to what you bring to the market, what you bring to your situations is different from everybody else. And primarily because of your shape, because you have different experiences than people. Your personality is different. Your abilities, sometimes you could have certain abilities that are similar, but your abilities coupled with your personality and experience makes it different, right? Your heart is uniquely different, and the spiritual gifts. And, so a lot of times we think about what's the difference between a spiritual gift and an ability, and so there's things that we have learned over time how to do. We've done it so much that it's become something that we can do with our eyes closed, so those are kind of abilities that we have. But when you start talking about gifts and talents, things that you know how to do that a lot of people don't know how to do, that's a unique piece, so it's one thing to have abilities, but it's another to be able to maybe through training or maybe just through the fact that you prayed for it and you came into the world and just embellished, or I should say unveiled this thing that is no one knew you had, and all of a sudden it came out. It's like a lot of times when you see these people walking around. I forget who was it. I was talking with somebody here recently, and they were at a work event. I think it's my sister, and she was like, they had a within their office, and had an event going on. They were doing like a little talent show, and then it's people who you're sitting next to every day who you never knew could sing like that, right? Or was an artist. If I was watching the other day, it's a brother on the board with me, and I know him for his specialty as far as the things that he does. And I'm looking on social media the other day, and this dude is like an artist. I'm like, this is not like this chicken scratch, man. This is good stuff. This is beautiful. Had no clue that this brother was an artist, and so it's these gifts that we have, these unique talents. That's a part of our shape. It's a part of what we bring to the marketplace, to the work that we're doing. So I just wanted to kind of unpack that, really take a second. I highly recommend that you get The Purpose-Driven Life. If you've already read it before, dust it off, especially during this period of this 90-day goal setting challenge. It will be very helpful, especially as you are really just trying to unpack this relationship between us and humans and people, and the relationship that we have with God, and how that flow should be. What does that relationship should it look like? And these are things that I know a lot of times, a lot of times we go to church and we're hoping to get like some of these questions answered, but it's intimate stuff that where a lot of your answers come from. There's, those intimate communications, the effort to try to communicate and to hear, and don't stop after you just started. You say, I tried one time and I heard nothing, so, but it's that flow of the wanting to become intimate spiritually, and just the value of communication. I think is going to play a big role into, this whole aspect of understanding the relationship that we have. And I think that this isn't something just for this goal, for this 90-day goal setting challenge. This is something that it becomes a new lifestyle, a new way of how we flow. Especially, because we're going to have other goals. We're going to accomplish things, and that's going to happen. And then we'll say, okay, wow, now I'm here. What about that, right? And those things will happen throughout our life. We're just kind of, as humans, we're kind of built that way. But there's just some value. I mean, at least the way I see it. I mean, it's just real value to being able to always know that you have this solid relationship that you can always trust and believe, and know that you're not by yourself, and you can go after all these different things together. And you know, the things that are really big, you say, you're a big God, so you handle it. Let me get back to the message. You know, let me get back to the work that I'm doing here, and just being confident in that, and always wanting to grow and learn more, and just being a student of the relationship. So that's all I got, folks. So anybody have any questions, comments, want to share before we finish up for the day? All right.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here.
I wanted to always thank you for laying out such a great Saturday morning, man. I'm grateful for the fact that we got Saturday. I'm grateful for the 2 hours. Man, very grateful for the 2 hours. Now, I need to get my 2 hours to every little piece.
So what about the other 2 hours?
I love the 2 hours. I like to get into every other week now. You know, I was doing like 2 hours once a month. Beautiful thing. So, you know, now I get my bi-weekly 2 hours, and then we'll be really back. You know, put that out there. That is now my goal, but my thoughts are maybe it should. That's one thing. The second thing is I was thinking about is it Denise?
Jalissa.
I know what Jalissa. It's not like it's the same as a different word.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where my mom came from.
Ah, okay.
Right there.
Yeah.
Like Jalissa. A different word. That's a small thing. Well, they had that's right. I was thinking about that. And one, you know, I know everybody on the call, everybody's listening. That's encouraging for that situation. You know, to kind of get to know I just avoid that. You know, that stranger that he's doing a great job. You know, and to get away from that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also me. We were talking about that in the experience on the stage, right? In my experience, and her situation similar to my situation in the sense that, I mean, you know, I wasn't on the side of people. I was one of the children. So my mother was in that situation. And I was 2 years old. My father was being out there who had PTSD and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, abusive. So, when I was around 2, she got out. You know, and crazy enough, it was on the strength of like, obviously, to protect me and then to protect herself. Because secondly, you know, she gets taken like old Tony Brown before, something like that. Came with some old personal power. And she was like, I'm tired of it. You know, I'm going to drop this kid off me with my grandparents. And I'm leaving this dude because he thinks he's still fighting to be calm every night. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just getting crazy. So, that being said, the experience and think about your children. And because of that, I mean, you know, we didn't much about that, you know, but I don't know a life of abuse, you know, as a child. So I actually got away from that. I don't know I've never had, you know, I was never been an abusive father or any kind of, you know, hands-on. I'm not an abusive man, you know, I'm not perpetuating, you know, issues. I don't know the ins and outs of the situation, but it is very powerful to make the right decision of the necessary and the experiences that we as parents have to create your children, you know, to give them experiences. I'm talking about that because that's one of my kids, to make sure that they get the best possible experiences. That's a beautiful thing that we just made that day. Certain things, you know, all that stuff comes around anyway. On the go, but to be able to do that and or whatever, you know, and just thinking of the cycle, so she had to remember to break that cycle. So I was just thinking about my mother and grateful for what she did, and also encouraging you to keep going through this. It's a real thing. So I'm thinking about that. So that's my word of encouragement. Keep up the fight.
Yeah.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate it. And that's really what it's about for me. Breaking that cycle of abuse and dysfunction and not continuing to show like my kids that this is okay. It's okay to be abused, or it's okay to be abusive to someone else. Like for me, that's my why. Like really getting out of this situation, because it's so important to not continue to pass down these generational curses. And, you know, my kids are still young, but they're sponges.
Yeah.
So they've been able to see certain things or encounter certain things, and they're not able to articulate what's going on, but in their mind, it's being normalized. So I had to make that decision to get out, because I don't want them to feel like this is what love is, or this is what life should be like. So thank you for that.
Yes. I'm sorry. All right. I just want to say that thing to that conversation also, that, you know, working this conversation we got going. That's a lot. Time to go do it. Time to go do it. Well, I thought you didn't do yours when I was on 30 days.
Hey, Pass, I can't hear you. It's kind of far away. I can't even hear what you just said. You're clear.
I think my beat's not on that first thing.
Okay. But here's what I wanted to say though about that. First of all, I'm so glad you shared with Jaleesa about your experience, and more so your mom's experience. Because actually, that's a factor. I didn't even know that piece. So that's, you know, that's new information even for me. And as much as we've talked about some of this stuff, you know, but I think that in her case, she's able to look at her young babies and say, you know, I'm talking to somebody who was a young baby going when his father was going through his situation with your parents. And so to be able to look into the future and see examples of people who overcome it, and the willingness of the parent, of the mom in this case, to say this is not going to be the reality for my child, to have a distorted view on what love is. And I just think I'm so glad you shared and was honest. And that's, you know, when we start these calls, I always try to pray about people being able to share and be bold and be honest and communicate in ways you wouldn't normally communicate. Because the objective of the call is to be able to create a mastermind on as it relates to personal development and what it is that we're here to do to get stronger and to become much more mature as an individual. And part of that maturity comes with being honest and bold and being able to share and communicate things that you wouldn't normally do. And that, I'm sitting there listening to you talk, and that was exactly what I was like, that's check mark. That's a prayer answered. And we're not only able to share that directly intended for Jaleesa, but imagine all the people who are listening and who will hear this later, who could be very well in that same situation, and or know someone who's in a similar situation. And then they can take that. And that's, again, as we talk about, our experiences are a combination of the things that we do, you know, our own actual experience, things that we've done, things that we've heard somebody do it, things that we've read, you know, and even the dreams, right? And so we close our eyes and we saw it in our dreams. And all of those things make up our experiences. And going back to our shape, we bring those experiences with us as we're getting ready to do our work. And so, you know, that was just listening to you share and be honest and willing to share in that space and on that level highlights exactly what we're trying to accomplish here, especially when someone is in need of that kind of communication. So that did it for me. So, all right, folks, it's 9:02. It is 9:02. For those who are on the call for the first time, this is a 2-hour call, so we're 2 minutes past the hour, right? But I'm thankful for everybody who have participated with us. This could very well be my last call here at this house. Actually, it could very. We may have one more here at this house. I'm seeing how fast we can sell it. But this could be the last call here at this house. So I felt like I needed to come outside and be a part. We used to do these calls outside around this time of year. We definitely didn't do it during the winter time, and it was cold and dark, right? So, but it's good to just, it's just, again, for me personally, this being able to go to God about my thankfulness of being able to have a place to come, and this house has been a blessing to me and my family over the past 8 years, and the community, the people we've met, the whole nine, and just being able to say we've been protected through the storm and the rain and the snow and all that, to have a place. And then the community was able to be of value to us throughout these years. And so just little bits of thankfulness that we can share, communicate. It's one thing to have it in your mind. It's another thing to verbalize it, to say it, and put it out there to the universe that you're thankful for what has been a blessing to us up to this point in our lives. And so, bit nostalgic. I don't know if we're going to have another call here or not, but we'll see. Hopefully. But I wanted to highlight the fact that, there's just a lot to be thankful for, even in the middle of uncertainty and craziness. There's still a lot to be thankful for. And so whenever you have an opportunity, do it. Say it and be clear and be excited. Say it with joy, because it is something that we, again, we think about it in our minds sometimes, but we don't verbalize it. So I think it's just worth that. So anybody else have any questions, comments, statements before we finish up for the day? All right. Let's get the weekend started. Let's be intentional. Listen, we're going into the second phase of this 90-day goal setting challenge. This is the month of doing. And so now, granted, let me say this, because I'm glad Paz kind of outlined this. You really want to take time as you're identifying your goals, and you've identified what you really want to focus on and work on. You do want to take time to become. You want to take time to unpack the why of why you're doing this. Why is this important? You want to do that. You want to associate, with the people who can provide guidance and models. People who have what you want. They've done it. You read their books, learn more about the things that are, and set big goals. Things that are really worth your time. So spend that time becoming what it is that you really want in your mind and in your spirit. Don't just rush, because we want these things, these goal setting. We don't want it to just be something that happened. It happened. I did it once, but it's not playing a part of your future. It's not a new added value of your lifestyle. We want these things to be truly transformational for you and your future. And so if you were ever going to take time to actually dream big and go after something that really mattered to you and that is a reflection of your future, now's the time. Let's do it. And you got a network of folks who game to do it with you, right? So it's not like you're by yourself. So let's take it seriously and do all the things that are necessary. Create that spiritual intimacy on a daily basis that we talked about. Dig into the why of your goals and why those things are important. Really unpack it. Associate with people who are winning in those spaces. And I say associate meaning get to know them. If you got to read their books, if you get a chance to meet them in person, great. But most of these people, like in my case, a lot of them are dead. So it's like I don't get a chance to talk to them, but they got books. They left books and they left materials and videos and whatever the case may be. Associate. And be intimate with them as much as you can. And as we move into this month of July and the next 30 days, we get into the process of being consciously competent in doing the work and actually getting experiences and things that examples that can help us. This is just a perfect time to test out how you feel about the process. And if this is something you really want, I mean, it's just a beautiful thing to be able to see yourself doing something that you truly want for yourself as often as you can. And it's not in the mind anymore. It's not theory anymore. It's now practical. And it's just a blessing to be able to be a part of that kind of life experience. And you deserve it, right? Why not? Why not do it? So I'm rooting for everybody, man. And if you want to rap and talk about this stuff in detail, hit me up. Let's go to the website, dreammakersnetwork.org, www.dreammakersnetwork.org. You can go on there. You can see a lot of videos from past events, things that we've been doing. If you want to schedule time, just kind of have a one-on-one and just talk through some of the stuff that you're working on, let's do that. It's a lot of cool stuff happening, man. I can't even begin to tell you. It's just it's a blessing to see what's possible and what's out there and what we're working toward. But let's just do it together, man. Let's keep you posted. If there's some areas where I can be helpful and maybe let me know. Let's do it. All right, folks. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you at the end of the month. See you soon.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Colin.
Goodbye.